It is episode 94. Today we discuss year-end closeout. I am Michael Askins, architect and technologist, and this is the Technology Architecture Solution Engineering Show. In the virtual studio with me is
Dev.
Thank you, bud. Thanks for joining us. We are overdue. We have a lot of content to get through in the next 2 weeks, so be prepared to be flooded. So while you're wrapping your Christmas gifts, putting up lights, if you haven't done that already, put us in your ear. So today we're going to keep this as a shorter episode. It seems to be doing pretty well from listens. So we're going to try to keep this one a little bit shorter. We're going to come out of the technology weeds just a little bit. We need to talk about several things leading into our 100th episode. If everyone hasn't seen my post a billion times, we're leading into our 100th. So that will be our year-end show. So stay tuned to this space. And again, Spirent, our sponsor, is gonna put on some nice giveaways for us for our 100th episode. So stay tuned. Look in the show notes on how to register to potentially get a nice Spirent jacket, some swag, maybe some show conversations, and potentially even a review of your 365. So let's keep you coming back for more and stay connected with us and stay connected in the show notes. So before we go down our topic today, let's just take a quick minute and get caught up. It's year end. And so how's your year end, Dev?
Oh man, it's been.
I know it's been exciting. I'm just putting it out there for you to give me your.
Exciting is a certain take on it. Exciting
True.
that it's very strange because usually this time of the year things are kind of slowing down. Where people are wrapping up for the holidays, budgets are already locked in. So there's not really a lot of project work going on or any, mainly probably just the most discussions happening for like maybe next year for people who are still wrapping up their budget or, back half of next year maybe, but it's been busy. We have a lot of project work. People want to, I guess there's a lot of leftover budget this year from COVID-19 for the IT budget, for, putting people in remote work and stuff like that. And people are trying to burn dollars and we're benefiting from that, I guess, to a certain extent.
Yeah, we are benefiting from it, but we're also feeling it. So what I wanted to do was kind of touch on just that. Some organizations. Let's change this view. That's better. Some organizations, historically, we talk about this almost every year end. They got a little bit of budget to get through. They have some lingering projects, maybe some efforts that they want to, get out of the way or get done. So it's a use it or lose it. So they're like trying to move their organization forward while making sure that we stay, focused on, technology success, right? So move the organization forward, technology success, use the budget that you allocated for the year. That's definitely different this year. Last year, I don't know as if we felt that because throughout the year there was, unplanned budgets, unplanned spending. This year, it seems like it's, there's a lot of projects to help shore up people's stances, be it hybrid work, remote work. And I'm sure we're going to talk about this ad nauseum still. But one of the things that are going to happen is that we're going to need to solidify those choice, make it permanent, right? So, labs that rolled into Aspirant, we had to make it permanent campaign to try to get people to start thinking about this earlier. Now, some companies are up against it, right? There's pushback from employees. They're not coming back. They're changing jobs, or there's pushback from employees. They want to come back and they want to be, interfacing with people. Regardless of your stance on that, it does put a little undue burden on other parts of your organization. I know historically, as I mentioned, we wind up having this. We got this on the books for the year and we kick off projects. Or if you're in higher or education period, let alone higher ed, one of the things that happens is, it's downtime, right? So if you have, SLED, state, local education type work, it's down period. So IT usually winds up working. Just think of Y2K, the year 2000. Most people were out partying, watching the ball drop, waiting for the world to end. IT people were sitting there anxiously not waiting for anything to not happen because we knew it would be fine. But regardless, we had to work. So we see a lot of that activity happening now with trying to shore up those systems and solutions moving forward. I see two things, right? So there's a big push right now for organizations to do transformations into the cloud. So moving data centers or co-locations, replatforming, moving into, more PaaS in SaaS solutions as opposed to the traditional server infrastructure, server application infrastructure. That's always going to be there, but we see this big push recently. And I think this is a result, at least the conversations I've had, a result of trying to work smarter with less, right? And not necessarily less people, but, reallocations of budgets. Let's be smart how we spend. Now, in the modern workplace space, there's a big lift in, from what I'm seeing, and I'm going to toss it over to you. You live in the Azure and infrastructure space, but you come out of the modern workplace space, and you're really connected there too as well. So why don't you give me your take on what modern workplace projects you've seen, say, in the last 90 days, and what people are projecting forward? And again, just the purpose of this is to kind of put a bug into our listeners' ears of what other organizations are doing, as opposed to giving you a technology roadmap. Use this product, and this is why. I think we're going to start with this show talking about what types of projects people are looking at, other organizations are looking at. And then the next episode will be your holiday gift guide for your IT person. But what in the modern workplace lane, what types of projects are you seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing, I feel like we're seeing a bunch of different variety ones. And I think it kind of depends upon the organization and what they're looking for and where they're at in their transformation journey, especially that's probably been accelerated by COVID to a certain extent. For one particular or a company we're seeing, they were still on Skype for Business server and still had Exchange servers and home file servers for their employees, and they're in the middle of a whole transformation to get all that stuff up to OneDrive, Exchange Online, Teams. So we're in the middle of that, and they want to go and really put foot to floor to get that going. We see other companies. I think a lot of times for some very big enterprise type orgs, we see a lot of time, when they initially made their cloud journey, that they just kind of did a lift and shift when it comes to like SharePoint. And we see a lot of that. We're trying to, go back and kind of retroactively fit stuff more into the modern framework now, with SharePoint and the new intranets and things like that, with hub sites, kind of, just re-architecting everything. We see a couple of those too, and kind of cleaning up what was already there and kind of making it fit the more modern mold now of modern SharePoint. I think those are the two biggest things we see right now. And Teams is always going to be a big push, and I really like to say, I really like to know how many more people are out there are on Skype for Business servers still, because I'd be very curious, because we got to be working with one of the last ones out there.
You would think, but I bet you're surprised that it is out there, right?
Yeah.
I can't give you numbers, but I'm sure there is someone sitting in some IT department not sure or uncertain of the path forward, or just not wanting to get around to it because, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but soon it'll be broke.
Exactly.
So yeah, for sure. So yeah, the modern workplace lanes. I think one of the things, some of the conversations I've had, that I've actually tossed to the modern workplace lane for the day job has been, not oddly enough, but something we talked about not too long ago was Viva. So we're seeing, the employee health and well-being focus happening, and the conversation's not coming from IT. IT is not like, hey, let's turn this on for our company. It's coming from HR teams. It's coming from the business, who's saying, we need a way to connect and deliver, disseminate, and engage. And this is a solution that's out there, right? And it's, like I use Insights all the time. Used to be like the MyDelve or whatever it is. It's just kind of repackaged, but there's also the new stuff that, from a health and well-being every day. You probably heard it on the screen because I thought I muted everything, but I didn't. The that's my Aviva daily, like, how you feeling today? And do you need to create any tasks for first thing tomorrow? It's like that guided, let's do the virtual trip home, and, decompress and get everything set up for the next workday. So I've had several conversations around that. The data and AI lanes are pretty steady state. So we've had, this past year, several opportunities to help modernize and transform, migrate, replatform into Azure. And, leading into the year end, I'm not seeing that flurry of activity around the data and AI space, likely because of Well, as we're getting pretty late to the end of the year. So, I mean, if you think of it, a lot of organizations, they start really pulling the lever back on their activity. Oh, sorry, pulling the lever back on the activity for end of year, between Thanksgiving and, the week of Christmas. So, it's not the time to replatform. It's not the time to start a 2-3 month project. It may be the time to plan for it, but it's not the time to start for it. And in the security lane, that is not surprisingly still super active, and it's been even more active than ever in a lot of the activities we've seen during our day job at Aspirant. One of the things we've seen is a big uptick in connectivity for identity and access management. Not necessarily like, hey, let's roll out a SIEM tool, or it's more along the lines of expanding existing services or migrating and moving certain services from one place to another, and maybe drawing down dependencies on premises identity and access. But we also we have regular clients with regular Azure B2C and B2B work. That is this. There is no cadence to that. That's when customers want to do that. But there has been a big flurry around that, and it's not like you can refactor, Azure Active Directory so easily. You're not going to do that. You're going to change things around to match what you need it to do. You're going to do stuff to make it work properly. You're going to make refinements. You're going to do integrations with mergers and acquisitions. You're not going to just toss it on its head for the sake of tossing it on its head, especially if you're a well built out organization, because there are ramifications to that. So, even people that know Active Directory are reaching out for some oversight or assistance in that. So I've seen there is a big push, especially with Azure Active Directory, and as you make your migration to Azure or any cloud for that matter, and you're using Azure Active Directory as your backbone, you're going to find that there's things you're going to want to do on your Active Directory environment to make it a little more amenable to being cloud ready. Because it just doesn't deal with artifact well. It's just not going to. Where you can wrench something in and tweak something and not do a best practice on premises, you don't got that choice in the cloud. What else are you seeing? Any other project types you're seeing that organizations are trying to, quick hit win towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's funny, we talked about the IAM piece, and we definitely seen a decent flurry of that. And we hadn't had a chance to talk about this, but I had another conversation today. It's not another kind of conversation about integrating an HR system with Azure AD.
Mm-hmm.
With and seeing how that goes, and people are trying to streamline and automate as much as possible, between their different systems, and especially when it comes to users and details about those users. Like you said, we're seeing a lot of B2C work come in. I think it's been a lot of IAM. It's been a lot of IAM stuff. I mean, I feel like nothing else kind of rises to the surface for me right now. That's been the main thing in the Azure space that we've been seeing.
Yeah, and rolling into next year, and I'm just putting seeds out there of the types of projects other organizations are looking at, and the organization size type that I'm speaking to. So if you're listening to this, to see if it resonates with you, is the mid-tier op, right? So the small medium business is really not part of the conversation we're having today, though the small and medium business we can still do those types of things for. A lot more nimbly and faster, by the way, because the complexity is not of order of magnitude. It is, exponentially smaller. So those are the types of projects for those medium, large enterprise customers that we're seeing. And, the one thing that I want to say that's been from mostly the security perspective is Defender. Once upon a time, Defender was a thing that came with Windows, right? Now it's a branded suite of things that helps secure and harden. Now, talking to that smaller medium business, when you get your M365 license, depending on the one you get some level of that Defender and endpoint protection with your subscription. So you are now at like a level playing field where Active Directory P1 and P2 is out of reach because of the cost that's now included with your subscription. albeit the subscriptions did go up about $1 per month per user, which is, I mean, that's a rounding error at this point, right? So yeah, there is things for smaller and medium businesses. The enterprise, though, I say I'm shocked, but I shouldn't be, is the conversation around Defender being a real security solution, because the way they took the components that were used and repackaged, they being Microsoft, repackaged them to be more beneficial. Not influential, like, like, hey, I got McAfee, like it's a name recognized product. It's a security product, or, Norton, insert product here. But Defender is, more than just what comes with your operating system now. It is, it is part of a managed solution. It has that protection for servers on premises for your endpoints being laptops. It also has protection for your cloud. There's a very affordable solutions. I deployed on our tenant for IT Pro. I deployed a new SQL server just the other night. I needed to have a place for Power Apps to go. And one of the things I needed to do is deploy it. And it's kind of in your face now. It's like, you can protect us with Defender on this box, $15. And I stopped and I looked and I was like, okay, I know what the products are. And I just wanted to do a quick search. It's more than competitive. It's way more than competitive, especially for a server solution. And it's backed and it has 0-day protection and all the nuance that goes with that, which it should be its own show. Heck, we got 6 of them to get to 100. So we might be able to wrench one of those in there for you. But regardless, the thing that it's become a conversation piece. Like, it is affordable. It is maybe an offset of the cost that's already being spent somewhere else. So I've been having conversations around that. Now, I mentioned Power Platform. There is another uptick in Power Platform interest. Now, I don't know if that is since the Ignite Fall Edition. I'm going to toss it to you here in a moment to get your perspective, but there's been another uptick. It seems like it's, there's always interest, but then there's these spiky, real heavy, oh, we got to have this. We hurry up and rush, and then wait. Are you going to do it? So I see another uptick coming already, and it's not an artifact of end of year. People want to keep people busy and burn budget. It's more along the lines of trying to change the process of knowing what, a full-blown developed environment and a .NET Core framework application versus doing something quick to solve a business need that is never going to get done by your development team because it's too low priority. So that conversation has been in the past 2 days has been just a big flurry of activity. I'm going to toss it to you for your impressions on that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely been an uptick, and I feel like it's been the Power Platform in general. I feel like with some areas we've seen interest in Power Apps, some interest we've seen in Power BI in certain places, which, I mean, we include that in the Power Platform, but definitely lives more solely in the data lane, the data area. And the way I look at Power Automate too, I mean, I feel like a lot of times when you're doing Power Apps, Power Automate is just like a given that you're going to be doing something with it almost all the time. Especially if you're doing any
and SharePoint.
And SharePoint,
doing SharePoint, there's always some sort of a Power Automate.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been seeing different peaks in interest here, and I mean, I think what a lot of people are realizing too is that they have this. A lot of times they have the capability already. They have the licensing there. They see it's not extremely crazy to do unless you're trying to do something weird.
We get that.
Yeah, we do get that. But yeah, especially with the COVID stuff. I mean, a lot of people, we did a couple of return to work apps, for people answering questionnaires and things like that. That was quick and dirty, not a bunch of time. The other day, I even saw one that is for organization that they built a Power App to generate naming conventions for their Azure resources.
Really?
Yeah. We'll talk about that offline in more detail. But no, it was really neat. They figured out the naming conventions, and we were staying up Azure resources with this particular client, and they had to go to the random name generator and figure out the names of the resources and stuff like that.
Security through obscurity.
Yeah. So
that's not your only layer of defense, by the way.
Yeah. So I mean, Power Apps can be whatever you want it to be, and people are saying, okay, we have this use case, we feel like it can fit this, let's do it.
Yep.
And I feel like there's also been an uptick in people wanting more insight into their data too, which is why Power BI has been, a huge thing. We see that all the time, even internally at Aspiring as well. I mean, trying to transform that. I feel like, once they get a little taste, the wheels just spin and it just keeps going.
IT Pro activities. I know this is not the right show to bring that up, but IT Pro activities live and die through Power Apps and Power BI. I mean, literally everything that happens runs through the Power Platform. Everything. When we're building out a show, getting guests, it's just everything's done and tracked through that. So it's super easy, nimble, really fast. There's a lot of templates out there. But that naming convention app, I'm interested. Maybe give me a link to that GitHub repo that one, because I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah.
It's also like one of the things that it solves too is like I saw somebody using it as a IPAM solution, like IP address management. Not necessarily for the naming of servers, but the old days of making sure the shared spreadsheets there for hard coded resources and app services. Don't need that no more. You can have something a little more robust, and you can also wire in checks. You can have this wired into your monitoring and alerting solution as well. So I mean, it's endless when you have the ability to do this, and it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to. Well, again, depends on how complex you want it to be, but it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to do it. That's why they have citizen developers, and this we see. I have conversations with pro devs all the time, and when Power Apps came out, it was immediately pushed back on it, like, oh, that's crap. It's just access or it's garbage, whatever.
I remember those early day conversations.
Well, they realized that their boards, their Kanban boards, can get significantly more valuable because you can knock off a whole bunch of this low-hanging fruit stuff that you don't want to like spend time with your devs to build on because you're keeping line of business apps running or developing the next product for you. This allows that to happen, and the fact that these things can mature and there's source control abilities and there's the ability to push this from a community or individual developed tool that the business uses, and if it outgrows it, you can just move it down the line and have things, easily changed over to something a little more pro dev. And I think that's some of the messaging you've been seeing from Ignite Spring and Fall Edition is that Power Apps is not just for citizen developers, it's for pro devs too. It's a gateway to keep their community happy and move things down the line. So to be sensitive with time, let's just kind of recap some of the high level types of projects that are happening. Obviously, modernization to the cloud, Azure, from Modern Workplace, the expansion of collaboration specifically around Viva. Identity and access is huge right now. If you haven't had the hood lifted up in your Active Directory looked at anytime recently by an outside party, please find your friendly neighborhood consultant, and that will help you kind of align with maybe some best practices, maybe your functional levels not where it needs to be to manage Windows 10 or 11 devices. There's things that need to happen, right? So if you're not there, this is a great time of the year to kind of plan for that. And if you're a small enough of an environment, it might be the time of the year to do that. So we strongly encourage you to do that. Anything else you want to add to this? Now I'm going to give the preview for what's coming up in the next couple.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think when it comes to the modernization piece, from whatever piece of technology you still have on premises to the cloud, I mean, we're never going to see the end of it until from now. I mean, like even now, I mean, we're seeing, the other day I saw like some InfoPath and SharePoint workflows, stuff that needs to be burned to the ground and reconfigured in Power Apps or Forms or whatever it is, so I mean, I think, try, that type of stuff. Microsoft is not supporting it anymore, especially InfoPath and all that, take your pick of legacy stuff. I mean, going back to the Teams and Skype thing we were doing for this particular client, it was a heck of a time trying to get Microsoft support for an issue we were having because they're scaling back on their Skype engineers because there's not a lot of it out there anymore.
And there's not a need because the footprint has shrunk significantly.
Exactly. So, trying to get those resources and stuff like that, the quicker you can get off of that type of stuff, The
Mhm.
easier it's going to be. Is the longer you wait, the less people are going to be out there that know what it is,
Yep.
and it's going to be more painful. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Throw my favorite segue word in there. So, our upcoming on IT Pro is going to be closing the year out with you professionally. So, stay tuned to that channel if you follow that. But more importantly, again, we like to thank Aspirant for sponsoring the show and sponsoring us clear up into episode 100. Again, if you want to stay, warm with a stylish, nice little sporty jacket, find a way to get one and registering for a giveaway. We're going to have that stuff in the show notes in the upcoming shows. And also, if you need a look under the hood, if you're M365, we're looking to give one of those away to a lucky winner too as well. So thank you, Aspirant, and all those great, wonderful consultants for management consulting and technology consulting. Again, links in the show notes. The upcoming shows, we're going to have a really lighthearted one. It's going to be what gifts to give your tech guy in your life or girl. Sorry, I shouldn't say guy. That tech person that rules your world, controls your content filters, who fixes your broken laptops, who recovers your data, how to show some appreciation for them. And it's not buying them a thumb drive. I can tell you that right now. So we'll have some of that content in the upcoming shows. We also are going to have some content around Logic Apps. We talk a lot about Power Automate and the Power Platform, but it's much more robust family member. I don't know what to call it. Big sister, Logic Apps, right? So we want to touch on Logic Apps and potentially when to use a Logic app versus a Power Automate workflow. And then we also want to, kind of talk about why at the end of the year are we just talking about Logic Apps. Since they're an integral part of our lives, we bring them up in passing. But these conversations around the Power Platform has had us having hard conversations with organizations like you took all this time to build Power Automate flows. They really need to be Logic Apps at this point. So we want to kind of have that conversation when to put on the Logic Apps boots, if you will. So that's coming up too. We have several shows we need to get out so we can make sure we hit that year end with 100. This is going out on audio and video. Thank you in part by my nice ice cave that I'm in and Dev's green screen that is tan. So we will be making sure we push that out there. As you can tell, we are getting in much lighter moods as we move down towards some much needed time off for the holidays. So stay tuned. We appreciate you and thank you as listeners and viewers. And we'll see you on the next go. Bye.